Thank you, Ian. That's a good presentation. Even though we are not here, like thinking about crowdfunding for our company, but there are a lot of nuggets there that we can use it for our marketing. So even if somebody is not looking at the crowdfunding, these are great tools if you want to introduce a new product. Like, even if you're a big company, all those our listeners, if you're coming up with new product, then build that momentum 6 months from the time, and then when you launch it, it becomes very successful. I think, and also I like the last quote you said, until the lion likes to ride. I think that's a good one, because with the social media, you don't know. Some people just write their own the story about you. That's why we encourage, our participants, please open up, please tell who you are, please, do the networking with the community. Otherwise, somebody else will tell something about you that becomes the truth. So it's better you open up, you tell about your company. So those are the good lessons to take home. And I think we have some chats. And if anybody wants to talk, maybe you can raise your hand, and then we can open the mic. Matthew, do you want to ask the question? Raise your hand if you're. Oh, he raised the hand. Okay, let me open his mic. Okay, you can unmute.
So Matthew, I think we couldn't hear you too well, but I do see your question in the chat, and I agree that's an important question and something I could have probably brought up. But you asked, who is the Luji of Luji's chocolate? So Luji's chocolate is actually the Luji of Luji's chocolate is about a small town in Nigeria called Luji, which is where our cocoa beans are sourced from. So, Luji's chocolate is kind of an ode to that town, since, like I shared before, a lot of cocoa is produced in West Africa, but not that much chocolate is sold there, or is produced there, I mean. So Luji's chocolate is my way, and it's our way of telling the story of West Africa, which is, in honor of the town Luji's chocolate, which is where our cocoa is actually sourced from. So that's where Luji from Luji's chocolate comes from.
I think Jobert, would you like to ask your question? If so, please raise your hand. Is he raising the hand? Otherwise, I can read. Job, okay. He is asking, do you plan to use Kickstarter again for your company? If so, for what project?
That's a great question. I haven't thought about it too much. I will say I've seen a lot of brands that use Kickstarter multiple times, kind of because of the benefits I mentioned, like building a community, free getting, market validation about your product. So I think it's possible, but it's not, because I've reached the next milestone in my business, and the other milestones, I have the capital now to fund it. I don't have a clear next project on what it would be, but potentially. But I do see a lot of brands and projects do that, where there are some people who've had like 10 Kickstarter projects and they raise more and more money, and they're part of a community on the platform. So that's a great question. I'm not sure, but potentially.
Wow. I just see Jobert raised his hand, so I'm going to allow him to talk. Sorry, Jobert, I didn't see your raised hand before. Jobert, you can open your mic.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I think Ian answered it pretty well already. But thank you. Yeah, really appreciate the very informative presentation again.
Awesome. Thanks for that
Anyone else?
question.
Any other questions? We want this to be more interactive. Please open up. Don't be shy, because like she said, you need to promote your own company. So this is a way to practice. We are all friends, and today we have a very few people. So it's like, it's just like talking to your friends or family. So just feel free.
Mrs. Balu, can I ask some questions? Okay. So the platforms that you mentioned, are there any specifically that are available to international? Are they all US based, or can people in other countries utilize these platforms?
No.
That's a really good question. So I know for Kickstarter, people internationally can utilize the platforms, can utilize Kickstarter. I'm not 100% sure on the other one, but my intuition is that you can. But most of them, you do have to have like either you have to figure out how to get a US bank account to receive the funds, but you can be an entity like outside of the US. But the one call out on that is that I actually think most of the audience on these platforms, especially Kickstarter, are in the US. So it's actually a great mechanism for an international brand or entity that wants to launch to the US audience to do that, because you get access to these people. So that's actually something that I was thinking about as I was launching, because I saw a lot of businesses that are not US based, but I know most of the backers on the platform are US based.
Okay, great. And then I have another question about, it sounds like folks need to keep in mind a little bit of a I'm part of strategizing for this, that there needs to be a little bit of capital before you can, because you're going to be offering rewards and possibly need to do some marketing that may require some capital beforehand. Is that a fair assessment?
I would say so. But I think that depends on your strategy, basically, because I'm sharing just my perspective, and these are based on the goals that I wanted to achieve. But if you don't have the capital to invest in any of these things, you can just lean on free tools. Like we talked about marketing, right? You can just do organic marketing and just use social media to drive traffic to your landing page. But you likely do need something to pay for, like a website, so that you can actually collect emails. As far as the rewards, you're using the funding to get them rewards. So you don't need to invest your capital to do that. People are basically paying you for you to give them a reward. So it's once you have the capital, that's when you start to fulfill their orders. So it's not necessarily on the reward side, but potentially pre-marketing before you may want to invest some money in it.
And maybe that one would want to think about, when they set the amount of money that they need, or that they want to set it for, to think about how much of that money is going to go towards delivering the rewards that you talked about, because that will, as you mentioned, diminish the amount of money that can now be used for whatever the purpose was. So some budgeting thought,
yeah,
kind of needs to go in.
I completely agree with that. I think that's such a big part. That's why you have to really pay close attention to your costs, because you have to think through all of it, even like you said, the cost to get the rewards, but also to ship it. You have to make sure you have those outlined, because it's going to drive how much profit you end up making at the end of the day. Should I read through the
couple
questions?
of chats. No, there are a couple. I'm sorry.
I say, should I read through the questions in the chat, or what's
No,
the best
I'm
way
just
to?
trying to see if people want to ask their questions instead of putting chat. So I'm just asking, if you want to ask question, please raise your hand, and we can, make you, we can give access for you to talk. Because I see a question from Lorraine. Okay. You need to unmute, Lorraine. Can
Maybe
you
there's
please
some.
unmute, Lorraine? I think Lorraine is not unmuting.
So would you like me to read her question, or would you?
Or you want to go to the next question? Matthew wants to ask questions, so we can come back to Lorraine once she can. Oh, Lorraine is unmuted. Okay,
Hi, sorry.
go ahead, Lorraine.
It's okay. I'm in my shop. So I forgot what my question was. Oh, for the tiers, first of all, I just want to say just great presentation, because I loved how you stepped through everything and just gave such good prompts, you know, to, if we're going to do a project like this. So super helpful. And great job. So question is for the actual Kickstarter, I was curious on the rewards tiers that you did. Did you find you got more engagement at certain levels? How many tiers did you have? And sorry if I missed that.
No, that's a great question. You didn't miss it, actually. I didn't go through it. So that's a great question. So on the reward tiers, and let me know if I don't fully answer everything, but on the reward tiers, I had 2 products, but I had about 8 reward tiers. And I want to explain the approach I took. So as far as my 2 products, it was just, so I have Luji's chocolate. We have 4 chocolate bars that we launched with. So I was selling a set of those chocolate bars. That's like my product 1. And then my second product was a t-shirt that just was basically swag around the brand that just talked about chocolate. So those were the 2 products, but I broke those down into different reward tiers. Part of that is what I was talking about with trying to drive some urgency in the first week or so that people want it back. So I had 1 tier that ended day 1. It was me selling my chocolate at the cheapest rate. And if you didn't buy it on day 1, the price would go up. And then from day 2 to the entire first week had a different price. And that was a little bit higher than day 1. And then after week 1, the price went up again. So again, all trying to drive people to back my campaign earlier, since that's what the platform algorithm is going to kind of look at. So that's how I broke up the tiers. But the products in it of themselves were the same. They were all just selling a sampler of my chocolate set. And then the other reward tiers were just bundling the chocolate in different ways. So you could buy a 2-pack, you could buy a 4-pack, and then you could also buy a 4-pack deluxe that already included the t-shirt. And then those were tiers. And then the final 2 tiers I gave, where I actually had an advisory board that was you gave the largest amount of money and you could be on the advisory board. So the reason I also wanted to highlight that one is that your reward tiers can be anything. So I happen to make most of mine centered around the chocolate, just because of what I wanted to do. But I've seen people do, just about anything. You could, if let's say the project is around, direct trade, you could share a video of the farm and that's a reward. Or maybe some type of meeting with you as the founder could be a reward. So it can be really anything, but mine, I just had actually 2 products, but they were broken out into different tiers. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, I love the idea of the advisory, like, coming up with flavors or tastings or things like that. So
Yeah.
that idea. Did you find, the other part of the question is more engagement at certain levels, or I guess early, because you had pricing throughout.
Yeah.
Did you see any trends?
So that's let me think about that. So because it's a little bit hard for me to tell, since most of mine were the same product. Actually, they were essentially all the same product, just a bundle of my chocolate. So it's a little hard to see the trends in the pricing because it was all the same. But most people bought a 1 set instead of like any 2-pack or 4-pack. Most people bought 1 set, and most people bought after the second price increase. So a lot of people drove in on day 1, but people were still willing, even on day 1, they still backed the higher price simply to support. So that's something to note. but I think on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they publicize their most popular price point, and they say $25 is the most popular tier price point. But I think if you can go higher, that would also be good.
Awesome, thanks.
Thanks for that question, Laurie.
Yeah, Matthew, would you like to? Okay.
Great, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me better this time. Very thorough on this presentation. Fantastic. This has been a great Saturday evening for me. Right, just wanted to ask a question about whether you describe what you'd be using the funds for in your campaign, and just out of curiosity, yeah, what did you actually spend the $21,000 on outside of obviously delivering the chocolate and t-shirts to people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did describe, or I did tell them what I was going to use the funds for. I think that's part of what I was sharing on credibility that I learned. I think people want to feel, confident that when they give their money, they know what they're getting from it. So as much as you can share, at least that's what I tried to lean in on, as much as I could share of what I will be using the funding for, I think it's beneficial for the backers. So they feel confident that, you have a plan for their funding essentially. And as far as, what did I actually use it for? I haven't used all of it yet. So I still have some of the funding to actually use. So yeah, I used it so far to deliver on inventory, to like further refine my packaging. But as far as plan, a lot of it is going to be on operations actually. Just because, Luji's chocolate is relatively new. We still have a lot of things to refine in like how we're actually operating and bringing the chocolate from Nigeria here to the US. So most of the expenses will be on refining that process and also marketing for like our future launch on e-commerce and Shopify. So that's kind of the plan, but some of that is in motion right now. Thanks for that question,
I also
Matthew.
see. Okay. Yeah, I also see on the chat that Rajani Konkupudi and Bovo Akinlabi, they had done some crowdfunding. I just want to see if they have any comment. Today, people have been very quiet. Please, guys, like you
I see
have
that
to inform.
Paul Akinlabi has his hand up.
Okay.
All right. Hey, can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. Yeah, thanks. This is a great presentation, like everyone said. I have not done crowdfunding. I think I had indicated that I might be interested in the future. So I think that was what you noticed in the chat. But I'll just ask one question. What would you say maybe was the most difficult part of the entire process for you?
That's a really great reflective question for me to think about. I would say for me, I think I stressed the importance of the pre-launch and kind of putting that together. I would say the hardest part was just because this was the first time I'd done something like that, was just getting comfortable putting myself out there, sharing about something that's upcoming, reaching out to people one-on-one is a little bit awkward. And so I would say that was definitely the most challenging part, but it proved to be the most effective. So I'm definitely happy that I did that. But just putting yourself out there, reaching out to people to really get your lists built in advance of the launch was probably like one of the hardest parts for me.
Thank you. It's good to hear the reflection. Thanks.
Thanks for that question. But that's awesome. Thank you all for taking the time to hear this webinar on crowdfunding. I had my contact at the end of the slide, which I'm sure you'll get once we share out the email after this. But if there are any questions later on, feel free to reach out to me and let me know at hi@lujischocolate.com. And Luji's Chocolate is also available online at lujischocolate.com. So yeah, thank you all for taking the time on Saturday mornings, afternoons, evenings, wherever you are to listen to this.
Teresa, do you have any other questions for her?
Sure. I have some other questions. I'm curious about the reward tiers. Do they all need to be a hard good, or is one of the reward tiers the satisfaction of, supporting the story, right? Supporting the company, supporting the farmer, supporting the, sort of a heart filling as a reward.
Yeah, many people just donate without any reward. And that was a lot of people. So you can just give without any reward, but the rewards are on there. People also give more than the reward tier. So I had a tier, like I think the t-shirt was $26. People gave well over that. So people could give more, or they can just give funds without any rewards in exchange.
Just trying to see, do I have some other questions? I try to take notes so that I'm prepared with some questions. Well, we talked about I loved your slide at the beginning talking about companies that have used crowdfunding that we may never have realized. It sort of mainstreams the concept. It's not
Not niche.
right. It means, that big companies have used the concept to, propel their dream into a reality. So it was a great presentation. So much information that I think I will have to go back and watch the presentation again. It was a great look into the process and shared in a way that gives insight to everyone, that you sort of took us on the journey that you went on, and that was very insightful. And I hope that it helps people that, that it's a dark cave if you don't know what you're stepping into.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I hope it's been helpful for everyone who, is interested in this or just wanted to learn. So thanks for that feedback, Teresa.
Sure. My pleasure. It was a great presentation. All right. We still have a half an hour. If anybody has any questions or comments, anybody that's done crowdfunding in the group that wants to share their experience, strength, and hope with the audience. No? Okay. This is your chance.
Rajini, you have anything to talk? Nick Davis.
Oh, so
And
now Mrs.
Alisha.
Ballow's going to start calling y'all out by name.
And Valerie want to talk. Okay. I think if nobody has any questions, because I think Iyan has done a good job of putting all the points. So maybe people don't have anything. So I think they are also getting ready for their the Easter and other things. So maybe. So they're saying, can we drop if there are no questions? I think we can finish the webinar if nobody has any other question. So we don't have to be here till 12 o'clock. There's not only like, if we have more questions, we want to make sure it has time to cover all of them. So like, we said, even if we cannot think of any questions right now, but it comes off later, please feel free to email it to us. We will send it to Ian and get the answer. And when we send the recording, we will also have the question and answer session that will also live on our website. So thank you for spending your time on a Saturday. I know somebody said they are in already Saturday evening for them, and a lot of places it's the morning, early morning for some of people. So thank you for spending your time, and thank you, Ian. That's a very, very insightful webinar. It was very helpful. Thank you, and thank you all. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. So we have the next webinar. Teresa is going to talk about it, and then. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I'm not
So
prepared with that information.
that's like I can. Yeah, in April we are going to have 2 webinars. One is on anima fermentation process, how to add flavors and how to make the beans better flavored beans. So that's a important one. And also if you have any cocoa farmers that can get benefit from that, feel free to forward that in email, because since you are on our mailing list now, we will be sending information about the future webinars. Then we are also having one more webinar on community building. So we look forward to seeing you in April. So see you all.
Thank you so much, Ian. Very much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for
Bye.